Welcome to the Crypto Podcast. You can find all our episodes on thecryptopodcast.org. My guest today is a free spirit, financial freedom coach, a world citizen. I suppose some people would say digital nomad, which I always like. You're a 6 times Ironman, which means you don't sit on the couch watching the television for sure. And what I loved is actually you wrote down happy family father. And why I like that is when I remember working in Ireland, and there was times you'd be talking to people or you'd known for years and you didn't even know they had children. And I think it's very important to be proud and appreciate your children and make it a part of your life, because not everyone does. But you're from Germany, living in Mexico. Please welcome Ingo Schulmeyer.
Thank you, Roy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. So, I suppose we let the people know, you're into the Bitcoin and everything, but also kind of into the financial freedom. So this is going to touch on a few subjects, which also I'll put on the speaking podcast because I think it's kind of relevant, because it's not going to go too deep into the crypto. But what happens a lot of the time in the crypto world is people make a lot of money. They don't set aside what they should do with the money. And sometimes they get in trouble because of that. So I suppose let's kind of get into the digital nomad first. Like Germany, what's your own journey?
Yeah, my own journey is I call myself a world citizen. I'm not really the classical definition of a digital nomad, right? Because we're not really traveling now. I was all my life, I went to different places. My first big trip was 2005 when I went to India for 7 months when I was a student. So I was traveling in India, Nepal, and Southeast Asia. And then all my life we did trips, right? But yeah, as I'm also a family father with family, it's we're not traveling so much anymore. So for many years I had a job. I had a corporate job in the semiconductor industry. I was as an engineering or product management director. And this when we're talking about freedom. So I think I was always successful. I was chasing my goals and I had some successes there. I made good money, but it didn't really fulfill me. And then, like 3 or 4 years ago, 2021, during the pandemic, we as a family decided that we didn't like the life there. At this time, we lived in Israel. So we didn't like the life anymore and the situation. And it was just, before I was traveling also a lot from work. I was a lot in Taiwan, Korea, and also in the United States. But then, when the pandemic started, then everything was in the Zoom meetings and we were just sitting at home and the kids couldn't go to school anymore. And I noticed that, this feeling became stronger, that I didn't become happy from what I'm doing. And it's actually not really what I want to do. And then we made this decision that we sold everything. We sold our house, we sold our cars, we sold all our belongings. And we took our 2 kids and the 2 dogs and took a flight to Mexico. And we said, okay, let's go for an adventure. And let's see if somewhere else we find a better place to live. And so we were traveling here for 9 months in Mexico. And then in September, now it's 2 years ago, September 22, we came to this place, to the city where we are now, and we liked it, and we put the kids to school. It's an alternative small school in the nature for 1 day, and after 1 day they came back and said, "Okay, we're staying here." And we said, "Okay, so let's stay here." And since then we're here. I told you before, we also bought a land here. We're building a house right now here. Hopefully we can move in soon, probably in the next 2 months. And and I found my definition of freedom here also, right? Because I built my own business. I built a coaching business, helping people doing similar things, right? And freeing their mind and also become financially free. So I'm working on this stuff. So that's basically my journey in a nutshell.
Oh, excellent. And I'm just curious, like not just for you, but for the whole family, when you decided to sell everything and move, what goes on in your head? Like, is it kind of, because one, you have to keep so much stuff because you're currently living there, and then you have to sell it. And like, also kind of following on from that, have you kind of get in a mindset now of not acquiring so many things? Because I just known that by moving around a few times, that the less I have, the happier I feel, and that I stop kind of building stuff. Yeah.
I think you're spot on, right? Because I think that's what's happening, right? Before you collecting all this stuff and you have all the stuff, and it's getting more and more every year. I mean, we moved a few times, so it didn't get too much, but we always try to sell some stuff or give it away. But I think it's as you're saying. I mean, if you give things away, as less as you have to worry less, right? And you don't have to care about all the cars, and the car need to go to the garage and whatever, like all the maintenance and it was like a freeing process, right? It freed us up. We just stand at the airport with our few suitcases and the dogs and the kids, and that's all you have to take care of. So suddenly it's getting much easier.
Very good. And my car is currently in the garage, so you've just hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah. So with the crypto, before we go into kind of the money habits and the coaching and stuff like that,
sure.
What's your own kind of crypto journey? How did you find out about it, and how did you get started?
Yeah, I think I started. I mean, I'm an engineer, so I'm always interested in new technology, and I think crypto is a very interesting technology, and I think it will also change the world fundamentally. I started learning about crypto. I think I thought of 2017, 18 when I started talking, or when my friends kind of came up and said, "Hey, there's Bitcoin, and what, you don't have Bitcoin," and stuff like that. And then I started learning a lot. I also learned about other crypto systems. So I'm a strong believer in Bitcoin. I believe cryptos is good technology. It's a great technology, and I think there are a lot of good applications for that, like NFTs or whatever, the decentralized finance. I think there's a lot of potential there. But with Bitcoin, I really believe Bitcoin means freedom, right? Because Bitcoin has really the potential to free us from, or to separate, in the first time in history, actually, to separate the money from the government. And I think that's something huge, right? That's something completely different. It's not only a technology, I believe, really freedom. If we use it right, and if people adapt it, and if they start to believe in it, I think there's really a chance to really create a better world with that, right? Because it's making the world more, there's more justice to the world, and I think that's why I'm a strong believer in that.
I think the main kind of reason for creating it, or what we've been kind of advised, was what you said, but I'm just curious how you feel about the likes of Blockrock and Vanguard and all these big institutions just hoarding it now, because it's kind of, I mean, they're all controlled and they're not good boys when you kind of know what they're at. So it's like, how do you feel about them having so much Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's also a question I'm asking myself lately more and more, right? Because as I said, Bitcoin has the potential. But again, if in the end, like whatever, 90% of the Bitcoin are held by BlackRock and maybe a few big companies, then it's also not the idea. So I think it's very important. That's also my message, right? To the small people, to us, right? To that everybody has maybe not even one Bitcoin, but if a lot of small people get into it, and it can be just a small sum, but then you have this distribution of wealth over the world. So it's and then it's getting important. Yeah, and I think right now, it's a little dangerous with BlackRock what's happening, right? Because they're investing a lot, and I don't see enough small investors. So but I think when you just need to motivate the masses and to get into that.
And what exchange and wallets do you use?
As exchanges, I use different exchanges. I mean, I use crypto also because I'm traveling, right? I have also bank accounts in different countries because we had a house in Germany. So if I said to Germany, I come from Germany. Then it was the house in Israel. We had money in Israel, and now we live in Mexico. So I use crypto also. It's a good way to transfer money. So I have like a Bitso is a local Mexican exchange. I use it basically to cash out what I transfer. I use Binance, Kraken. So I mean, I don't want to put all the eggs in one basket, right? So I just use a few different ones. As a wallet, when I was more into crypto, I used a lot as a software wallet. I used MetaMask, so just to like do all the transactions and stuff. And I mean, for savings, I use a Ledger, like a hard wallet.
like
unknown.
well. Yeah, manufacturer, yeah, Rex or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. And because one of the videos that I watched that on your YouTube channel, and it was actually very good because there's 10 money habits, and I mean I'm doing most of them, but I know that a lot of people aren't, and I think it's kind of very important. So if we look at whether it's crypto, you haven't started or whatever, got into it, I think this is applicable to no matter what you're doing in life. And it's like everything is like a habit. If you get into you can obviously do the bad habits, drinking every day or taking drugs, or you can get into the good habits for looking for your future and your current situation. So maybe we'll touch on them. I mean, I haven't written there. I'm not sure if you know them off by heart, the different ones, but yeah, I can call them out if you want. The automate was one of the first ones anyway, of the 10 money habits.
Yeah, the money habits, yeah, as you're saying, it's habit building, right? And I believe, I mean, financial freedom doesn't mean only to collect a lot of money. It means to live the life you want to live with what you have, right? And having that said, yeah, it has to do also with discipline, like saving. And I think it's important not to have any debt, right? So that's one of the first things. I mean, most people they live on their credit cards, right? And you pay a lot of debts, which is basically lost money, right? You just burn the money. And there's a lot of stuff like that. And then also another one is also to think what's really important for you, right? And if we see how much money we spend, I mean, if I go every day, just an example, to Starbucks and drink a coffee for whatever, $6 or $7, and it sums up to a lot of money in the end, right? And this could also be invested over the long term. And I think the other thing is, many people they want to have they want to get rich quickly, right? And because this is a need we all have, right? I mean, of course, it's better to have a lot of money quickly. There's also a lot of offers. I mean, I'm not saying they're all valid or they're all wrong, but usually it's just that they're feeding a promise or they're feeding a demand, right? Or a need that the people have, but it's not really, I don't think it's really working like that. I think you should invest rather for the long term and make a good plan where you want to get and then think how quick you want to get there without putting too much risk in it, right? So, and I think Bitcoin, for example, is a good thing there, because if I think long term, the money I don't need now, I have it in Bitcoin, and I'm sure. I mean, I don't know where Bitcoin will be tomorrow or next week, right? We go up or down, but I'm sure in 1 year or 3 years, I think definitely going up, because I see a lot of more adoption. And in this case, if I'm selfish, right, I also don't care if Blockrock's buying or whoever is buying. Because
it's actually probably a good thing if you have Bitcoin, because it means that they're not going to invest if they don't believe in it. So in that sense,
because when you asked me before, I think for the society it's bad. For us as humans, it's bad that companies like Blockrock own this Bitcoin. But for me as an investor, it's good, because I see the big guys are in it. So, I mean, they don't want to lose money. So it's a good bet.
And like with the automation, because like what I personally do is I kind of put aside, no matter what income is coming in, whether it's $100 or something or a couple of thousand, whatever, I put 10% towards travel, one, because travel is a big thing. One is, and the other is investment. And it's like what I do, whether it's getting other coins or something else or real estate, whatever it is. And the other one is like a car, because when I was in my early 20s, I bought it was a Fiat Punto. And I remember I bought it on hire purchase. I had traded in a car that I had that was kind of old enough. And I remember meeting a guy on a construction site, and he had the exact same car, and there was only a few numbers in the difference in the registration. So in our country, it's the year of the car and then the number. So we knew that they were like within a couple of days. And he paid cash for his, and I paid mine over hire purchase. And it was something like €7,500 he paid, and mine ended up being something like 13.5. And from that moment, I never got a car unless I had the cash to pay for it. I saved for a first, and then just bought a car. But there's a load of people, they just do hire purchase with the car. They don't even realize the actual cost it is when you look at it long term.
Right. But this is exactly the mindset, right? And I think if you have the wrong mindset, it doesn't matter how much you earn, you will never get rich, right? If you if you earn, let's say today you're earning whatever, $3,000 or euro, let's say euro, you're in Europe. If you earn $3,000 and you spend it all at the end of the month and there's nothing left to save, if you earn 10,000 euro, you will spend them also, right? It doesn't matter. You will just buy something else. You will buy a bigger car or a better car, and you will go to better restaurants or to more restaurants or whatever. You will spend also the 10,000 money. So, but as you're saying, if you have this habit to save 10%, let's say you save from 3,000, you save 300 euro, then you will also save from 10,000 because you have this habit of saving. You have this habit of thinking long term, investing in your future, and not to spend everything, or even not to spend money that you don't have if we're talking about debt, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing that you touch on as well is kind of living below your means. Because for me, it's like I take out, say, the holiday thing. Because when you have money, just say you have your kind of normal kind of checking account or whatever, what people call it, you can just chop through it and you go through it. Whereas when you take it out, you adjust to the amount that you've got. So you're kind of living below your means. And I had seen you touch on it, and it's something I've said it for years. It's like, and I say it to people, some people get it, or people look at me like I have two heads. I said, is it a need or a want? Do you need this or do you want that?
Right.
And that's what I ask myself every time I go to somebody, and I just turn around. If I'm there and I go, I want that. And then I go, do I need it? And I don't get it, because I just ask myself that simple question.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you have to live a very miserable life because you're not buying anything, right? You can still put some money aside that you can spend also, and you can also have some pleasure in life. That's no problem. But yeah, just look on your or do some accounting. And most people they are not even aware how much they spend for what, right? So that's also good practice if you start doing that, like doing some accounting and checking. Like if you do it only for 2 months or for 1 month even, it already shows you, okay, what I spent 1,000 euro on groceries or whatever I spent.
Things like
restaurants.
Revolut is very good for things like that, because you can actually break it down and you can actually see it, because it's telling you, that you can see the, say, Lidl or whatever shopping that you go to, and you like you say, go, how am I spending, say $2,000 a month or something like that on shopping, and it makes you kind of step back and kind of be more conscious of what you're doing. Yeah. So it's something I've done from day one, is like continuous learning. I mean, podcasting, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I learn from a lot of podcasts. I read over 100 books a year, and I just invest in courses. I see something in marketing, but I'm so shocked at the amount of people they haven't read a book since they left college, and it's kind of like, I've done my studies, I'm done. And it's like, to me, life is a continuous journey, and the more I know, the more I realize I don't know.
That's correct. No, I'm also a fan of learning. I'm always learning new things. I have new topics. A lot of books here, or audiobooks. I also listen to a lot of audiobooks. I mean, if you don't have the time to read, that's maybe an option. Like when I'm driving car or something, or when I'm walking, sometimes I have my Audible has good audiobooks, and it can also be good to learn. It's a good option.
I'm just curious, because it just shows how capable we are. Because with Audible, because there were some books I didn't really like. If there's something that I want to kind of pay attention and make notes and stuff like that. But like just recently, like David Icke's new book, and it's his own voice. And I'm able to listen to it. The max you can go up to is 3.5 times. And I'm able to do it. I can't go straight to 3.5. I normally can go double.
Oh, really?
YouTube, you're only allowed 2 times. And podcasts, if they're video, 2 times. If they're audio, it goes up to 3.5, and depending on the person, I can go up to 3.5 on the podcast, or 3 or something, but all videos always 2, which means that a 2-hour video I'm watching in an hour. And I'm like that. I suppose that's an important thing as well, to be conscious of your time with all that you're doing.
Right, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, go on. Sorry. Yeah.
No, but I think it's also important to not to overlearn. I think there's also the other extreme, right? That you're trying to get too much information. And I think today, all the information is available, right? We don't have a lack of information today. So sometimes I think it's just also important. So for me, it was a very and I did it in the past because I'm also very, my brain is like, I'm an engineer and my brain is constantly running, so I'm a little hyperactive. Yeah, it's also important sometimes to calm down and to completely shut off and just to connect with yourself and disconnect from everything else. I think that's something else that helped me. So if you're just consuming too much information, so it's also not helpful, or sometimes there are also contradictory information. So and especially in the last years, I'm focusing more and more on my intuition. Of course, I already accumulated a lot of knowledge, but yeah, if I make decisions, for example, or I listen a lot to my gut feeling, and but therefore I regularly also disconnect from media, for example. Like I do, for example, every morning, I don't turn on my phone before, like first usually I do meditation, and then I go prepare some breakfast or clean the kitchen, and then I go for a walk with the dogs, and then I come back and only once the kids are going to school, then I start my working day, and that means I have already like 2-3 hours in the morning where I really like focused on myself and with my own thoughts and my own feelings, and I think that's also something important to do.
No, definitely. And I think there's another thing as well, is kind of find things that kind of make you laugh or whatever. Like, so for example, I do the same. I go for walks sometimes, with like grounding and meditate and everything. But I also have like, not just kind of like, say, Patrick Bet-David podcast. That's how I find out what's kind of really going on in the States and everything. But there's other ones I listen to, like Blind Boy and stuff, that is like, they're funny, and they're just having a chat. And it's like a form of escapism as well, but just kind of stepping away. And it's not like kind of, because there was a time where I used to be like, okay, learn. And that's a dangerous place to be as well. And you have to make sure you don't fall into it.
Right.
And did you touch on any of the other coins? You just stay away from Ethereum and meme coins and everything?
No, I did some, as I told you, I started learning like a few years ago. And I have some XRP, I have some Ethereum. And I did also some not the most successful investments, but then I started also learning about this, and then like I think it was 4 years ago or something like that, I invested in some, how they called, like these launch pads, and they had some new whatever metaverse coins coming up, and it was some strange constellation, and in the beginning I made some money, but in the end most of it went down. So I think there's definitely potential, as I said it. I think there's definitely useful applications. I think they need to turn out, but still I think it's still a risk, right? Because you don't know which one will turn out to become successful. And becoming successful doesn't necessarily mean that it's just the best technology that is becoming successful, right? Sometimes the best technology is, for whatever reason, it's just not getting adapted or so sometimes it's also luck, right? So it's a little bit more of gambling, but yeah, I was playing with cryptos, and I like to observe also the space, right? Because I think there's a lot of, also in the NFT space, I think it can be interesting, especially for artists and people that are making music. I think it can be a revolution for the way we make business today with art, right? So, and I think it can be also something very useful for society, because today you have these big companies like Spotify and that are earning all the money. But if you do everything more peer to peer, that's definitely has advantages.
No, definitely. And like, I think it was kind of at the start, it was, we call it kind of like the Wild West. There was too many kind of setting up and everything, and it was I stepped away from that. I had a few projects going on, and I was like, I don't know which is the safest one to go into. And I'd kind of come back like a year later and go, I think this guy seems good, and his platform's gone. So, which it's kind of dangerous. It's okay if you can be on a few, and that's, once you have it, it's safe. But no, it's kind of calming down. And I think, as you mentioned, the artists are getting paid, and that's the most important thing. You were talking about like, your careers like with chips and stuff like that. I'm just curious your thoughts. I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent there, but with Taiwan, I think, is it 90% they're like the top producer of all the chips in the world? Is that correct? Is it?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I mean, okay. If you look into logic, like CPUs, there's the top-notch processors are made in Taiwan by TSMC. They have the best nodes. Memory is also in other places. Like there's Samsung. Yeah, and there's a lot also in Korea. But I think that's why Taiwan is so critical, because TSMC has, I mean, like 5 to 10 years ago, there were 3 or 4 big players also in the logic. There was Samsung, TSMC, Intel, and Global Foundries. But they all lost pace, and now basically you only have TSMC for the latest, 2-3 nanometer nodes, so which is the transistor length, right? And so the others are so far behind. The problem is that the investment you need to make in this is so huge. I mean, these fabs are huge, and it costs like billions of dollars to produce such a fab for the latest processors. And that's why Taiwan is so critical, also in the conflict between China and the United States, right? So if like China decides one day they want Taiwan back, that could be.
So like that's where I was kind of going with this, is because usually sometimes we hear stories from the media, but when you actually have been there, or you kind of know the law of the land and stuff like that, you can. So is there really a serious threat from China with Taiwan? Is there real big clashes there, and they fear that they might actually take over?
Well, I don't know now politically how big the risk is, right? So I'm not too much into this kind of geopolitics, but technically it's a huge risk. I mean, you see the companies like Apple and whatever, all the big companies that are sitting in the United States, if they don't get chips from Taiwan anymore, what does it mean? You won't get new iPhones anymore. Like right now, you get every year you have a new generation of iPhone, but without TSMC, that's not possible, right? So there's just no way that they're doing that. And I don't think, I hope they're not going into a strong, whatever, economical or military conflict, but who knows? I mean, world is crazy today. I don't know what can happen. But yeah, I mean, China's semiconductor industry is also growing, right? And yeah.
Okay. And with like your investments and stuff like that, not you personally, but what kind do you recommend for like diversifying, like, putting X amount, because like you're a believer in Bitcoin, but for those getting started or whatever, like how much should people spread around, and should they have 10 different things like real estate and stocks and bonds and all this and different things, or should they put their energy into one field? What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think, and that's what I also talking with my clients, right? The right investment strategies. And I think this is very personal, because I think you should invest in what you feel good with, right? It doesn't help me if I say, okay, you have to invest in real estate, it's the best, but you don't feel good with real estate because you're always worried that your house breaks down or something like that. I think it's something very personal. So for me, since I like flexibility and freedom, I like assets that are free. I mean, as real estate, we always had only our own house that we lived in, which we invested. I never had rental properties. And then, I mean, now, meanwhile, I'm more and more into Bitcoin, but this depends also how is your tolerance against the volatility, right? So if you cannot sleep with that, you should have less. And, if you don't care about that, then you can have a higher amount. And with stocks, I think stocks are always good because stocks are flexible, right? Stocks you can have them on a broker, you can shift them around easily. So I think that's also, but it also depends what you're working on. I think you should have I always had in stocks, I did like part in stocks or in ETFs, right? I also invested something in commodities. I think it's good to have a small portion of commodities. Maybe some physical gold, but it depends also. It's if you're traveling, that's also not so helpful. But if you, for example, are traveling, you could buy, for example, gold ETFs, right, or gold miners or something like that. Or there are bigger ETFs in commodities in general. Energy, I think, is a great topic for the next years. And
with the gold, actually, because I mean, I know there's kind of a limit when you're traveling, something like 10,000 euros, $10,000, and I don't know what you have to go through if you're carrying more. But with gold, does it work out that it's the same, the value of equivalent of 10,000 if you've got a bar of gold bringing with you? Just for example, like yourself, you've decided to move from one place to another, and if you had physical gold, is there a limit on that as well, or you just have to have proof of where you got it?
I'm not sure. I think no. The limit is 10,000. It wouldn't matter too much for me because we're a family of four, so and I don't have that much gold. But we actually didn't travel the gold. I have it in a safe place in Germany. So
No, come on. Okay.
so it's I don't have it.
But in general, it would come under the 10,000. I'm assuming, yeah, that because that's the beauty.
I don't want
they don't know wallet. You can have 10 billion and they haven't a clue. So that's the advantage of the crypto with this kind of. And I mean, like the people that are checking us for the 10,000, they're the ones that are doing all the corruption, like they're. Yeah. So you've got a podcast, a small reset. You might let people know what you're covering in that.
Yeah, this is my YouTube channel and also my podcast and my website. It's basically my brand is the small reset, right? And I came up with that just a little backstory. So I thought that, there are all the guys talking about the great reset right now and whatever what they want to do and how they want to reset the world. And I thought that's maybe not the best idea. I thought maybe it's a much better idea if each of us working on ourselves, right? And we're working on ourselves and trying to improve ourselves every day a little bit with a small reset. And just to make ourselves better and to help society getting better. And I thought if enough people are doing that, that's maybe a much better solution than the great reset. So that's why I'm on the small reset. That's my brand. And the YouTube channel, usually on the podcast, I also have, we're talking usually about mindset, either mindset, getting to growth mindset, getting to success mindset, about habits, but also financial stuff like how to invest, also about Bitcoin, sometimes about freedom in general. I usually have once a week an interview with a guest from different topics, like either people that are also traveling or like having a story to tell how to live their life in freedom or how they achieve their life in freedom. And then usually once a week I do also like a educational episode about one of the topics I mentioned right now.
Very good. Just finally, IronMan 6 times. I mean, like I think, keeping yourself in a good condition helps with the mindset and everything else. But IronMan is the next level. So how did you get into that? And 6 times is like fairly impressive.
Yes, but I think from there I learned also a lot about mindset and setting goals and resilience and how to stay consistent with my goals. So I was always, I also like, since I like freedom and I like to be free, I also like the adventure. I was always like to be in nature. I always did a lot of sport. And then, when I was a teenager, 18, 19, so I mean, before when I was a teenager, I had this phase where going with friends and drinking and smoking weed. And then when I grew out of that, and I thought, okay, maybe there's better ways to spend my life. So I started to run a lot. I started cycling. And then I think my first Ironman I did in 2007. I came from cycling and from running, and I said, okay, I just need to add swimming, and then I can do an Ironman. So in 2007, I think I signed up for I never did a triathlon before, so I just signed up for Ironman. That was 1 year later, and I couldn't swim at this time. So I mean, I could swim, but not really like freestyle, not really in a competitive manner. So during the winter, I went to the pool like 3-4 times a week to learn really to swim. And then 1 year later, I had my first Ironman, and I mean, it was horrible, of course.
And just for those that don't know, because there's the running, the cycling, and the swimming. But what's the actual distance that you're required in each?
So first you're swimming 3.8 kilometers, and then you're cycling 180 kilometers, and then you're running a marathon, like 42 kilometers. And I chose my first Ironman. I thought it's a good idea. It was on Elba, the island on the Mediterranean Sea in Elba, the Elba Man. And it was even one of the difficult ones because you're swimming in the sea and you have the waves. I mean, before I was only swimming in the pool, which is very different than swimming. It was horrible, and you need to navigate. So I think I swam much more than 3.8 kilometer, and I swallowed all the salt water. And then the cycling was also very mountainous because there are mountains on the island. And then I got strong stomach problems and everything. But yeah, the goal was involving. I mean, that was my first goal, doing an Ironman, and I always dreamed of going to the World Championship in Hawaii. And then, 10 years later, in 2018, I went to the World Championship. But it's also showing you that you can achieve. And since then, I believe we can achieve anything, right? Because we just need to believe in it, and we need to work for that. I'm not saying we can achieve everything in 6 months.
And how long does it? I mean, because a marathon normally takes what, 4 hours or something. How long does the whole thing take? The Ironman.
Yeah, so I mean, the world record is around 8 hours. Usually, the normal, like the age groupers, so not the professionals, they take around between 9 to 15 or 16 hours.
And when you're swimming, cycling, and running, what's going on in your head? Do you have a strategy? Are you thinking? Are you planning your life? Are you planning to get to the next meter? How do you make it?
I think that's also for me some kind of meditation. I mean, yeah, sure. Sometimes you're thinking, but you're not thinking too much. I mean, you're getting into like a
just trying to survive.
Take the state. Sorry.
Just trying to survive, especially when you're in the water with big, huge waves.
No. I mean, sometimes, yeah, but now it's really I mean, it's really a flow state. You're really thriving in that. So again, this is also good practice to get focused on something here. And usually when I was running, I sometimes I'm listening to a podcast, but usually not. I'm just listening to my breath and with the nature, and you're getting this connection. So I think it's like a good way of meditation, yes.
And is there stops, or are you just grabbing stuff as you're cycling to kind of get liquids and maybe food into you, or must you carry your own stuff yourself? Because I'm not familiar with it, obviously.
No, so usually you have 8 stations, yeah. So usually on bicycle you get the bottles. I mean, I usually took my own bottles on the bike with liquid carbohydrates. But then you can get water. Get every 10, 20 kilometers, you get a station with water. Usually you grab it while you're cycling, and in the running as well. Usually they have this gels, like carbohydrate gels, or they also have hard stuff like whatever, they have fruits and all kinds of stuff. I usually stay with the liquid stuff because it's easier for the digestion.
And after whether it's 10 or 15 hours, how long does it take you to recuperate? Get rid of the blisters and the aches and pains?
Yeah, it depends, and there's also I think it really depends how you prepare for that, right? And actually, so if you're serious about it, for me, it was always like that. I always try to have a good preparation for the event. So, and then I think actually the time of preparation, like the 6 or 8 months before the event, it's actually sometimes harder than the event itself, because you always have to train. I mean, I lived in Germany in the winter. It's snowing, it's raining, it's cold, but you need to go out and run or cycle, right? So this long preparation over many weeks and months is actually what is more challenging than the event itself. I mean, there are other types of people, like also the people that want to run a marathon, for example, but they don't really train, they never really run. They just say, I want to run a marathon, and then I think it can be very painful. And also the people that do the Ironman in, let's say, 15, 16 hours, I think they suffer much more than if you do it in 9 or 10 hours. Because, they just don't have the preparation, and they're just not used to it. And, it takes a few days. I mean, after that you relax, right? It's like you achieved your goal, and then you can relax. You don't have to you can eat a lot. You don't need to take care about your nutrition anymore for a while. And you try to recover, going to the pool, to the sauna, stuff like that. So it's actually a nice time.
Excellent. And just have you any plans to do another one, and maybe with your kids?
No. So now I'm cycling with my kids. I want to go back in winter. I want to go back to Germany for skiing, because that's what I don't have in Mexico, right? There's no skiing. But right now I'm not planning any events. I thought maybe I will do a cycling trip through Mexico, a few weeks, like from not through complete Mexico, but like a longer distance trip on the mountain bike, where I'm taking everything. But yeah, competitions I'm not so much interested right now.
Okay, no, excellent. Listen, thank you very much for the conversation. You might let people know where they can find you.
Thanks, Roy. So on my YouTube channel, The Small Reset, YouTube at The Small Reset, or on my website, it's also thesmallreset.org. On YouTube you'll find a lot of new information, interesting information about mindset, finance, and how to become not only financially but also mentally free, which I think is the first step to become truly free.
Definitely, yeah. I'll make sure I put the links both on the audio and video, along with your podcast as well, so that those that would be interested in. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Roy.
No problem. So that's all for the Crypto Podcast and the Speaking Podcast. You can find other episodes on speakingpodcast.com and thecryptopodcast.org. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. Let us know what you thought. Give us a comment on what we were discussing. Until next week, take care.